first one is, what do you believe?
What do you believe?
What do you believe? That's a broad question. So what that looked like for us, it was kind of easier for us, was that we grew up raised believing the same thing.
Well, I guess we're talking about what do you believe as far as your faith,
Yeah.
hashtag religion.
But I think it even goes deeper than that too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a good time to talk about your philosophy of life,
Yeah.
your politics. Because I mean, it's one thing to say, well, I'm this denomination, I'm that denomination. Okay, but what do you actually, how do you live your life?
Yeah.
How does that, the things you believe about the world, what do you believe about success, life? You know, for example, you're a businesswoman, you know, so we were able to talk about, you know, the things that you dreamed of doing. I'm kind of getting to my second one here, but and things like that. So I knew that what you saw about the world was that you were self-motivated and that you could be successful and that nothing could hold you back and that one day you're going to succeed at the things that you had in front of you. You know, you may want to find out if the person that you're interested in has a different belief from you. Maybe you believe that way, but they believe that, hey, the world is rigged, the system is rigged against you. No one can ever really be successful. It's just kind of like a lottery game, or a chosen few get to be special. You might want to know that you're tying yourself to someone who thinks like that.
And I really think people believe that you can coexist in a home with two different opposing beliefs about something. And we're not talking about I prefer red versus blue.
Yeah.
We're talking about some legit foundational things like your faith. What do you believe in? Do you believe in God? How do you believe in God? What is your? Do you believe in tithing? Do you believe in giving? What God do you believe in? Those things those things do matter, and they do make an impact on your relationship. And I know we hear people all the time say, well, he's this, he's Catholic, and I'm this, and you know, and we choose not to interfere with our personal faith, and we're going to raise our children to be neutral about stuff. Like, that's not realistic. There's going to be problems, there's going to be confusion. You have to have agreement on those core factors, because that's going to really determine how strong your marriage is. Because those things can really cause division when it's time to make very serious decisions about your life.
I think what happens is people feel like you try to apply this have a love for everybody mentality to something as serious as a life partnership. And so your mentality is, well, I don't judge people based on what they believe, and I can work with anybody, and I can be friends with anybody. And that's kind of an okay mentality to have, like in the workplace. But this isn't just a coworker. This is the person you're investing the rest of their life with. This is the person who's going to be a co-parent to your children. Yeah. This is a person that's going to go through the trials of life with you. You'll have to tackle potentially sicknesses and diseases and moments of poverty and rises in the economy and falls in the economy. And you'll have to survive crises in life and natural disasters. It's very important that y'all share common core beliefs so that, because if you have to war against the elements and war against each other, that's detrimental. That's the
and the thing about it, that mentality doesn't work in any other scenario, like a corporation, a business. You know, when there's people that's on that board of directors and the CEO and the presidents, all of them, they have to have the same goal and mindset about that particular business, or else it will be no good for the company. Yeah. But we try to do that in marriage, and it doesn't work. Yeah. Like, you literally, I know this is a very extreme example, but I just only came to my mind. You can't be a person that believe in drugs and like, I think it's okay to drink, smoke, and do drugs, and you're not that way, and it's like, well, we can make it work. Like, you don't think that person's addictive habits and drinking and smoking and stuff is not going to interfere with your lifestyle? Like, why do we think that's okay for anything else? It's not. It really isn't. You're going to have a problem.
Yeah, and it's very good to really dig into what your belief system is, because it's not just enough to say, oh, well, he's a Christian, I'm a Christian, we're good, and things like that. Like, what does that really mean for you? Are you just a Christian in name only, or do you live, eat, breathe, sleep Jesus? Like, this is the core of your life. The Word of God is your foundation.
Yeah, because some people we both believe in God. We both Christians. We love God, but he or she may not believe in going to church. Yeah. I don't have to go to church. I don't believe you need to be in an organized situation to seek God, blah, blah, whatever. And you might be like, well, church is a foundation for me. Like, I believe in the coming together of the saints and joining together and bringing your effectual measure. I believe in that. And your other spouse is like, no. Okay.
Yeah. It's like
those things will matter as time go on.
It definitely is going to. And see, when you're in that first beginning, again, the adrenaline's running, the endorphins, and you're dating, and it's like, well, they're still a great person. It doesn't mean they're a bad person just because they don't believe in going to church. It doesn't necessarily mean they're a bad person, but it does necessarily mean they're going to make a bad life partner for you. So that's what we're talking about here. We're not just talking about whether or not you're just making an acquaintance. This is someone you're tying your life to, and it's going to negatively affect you when y'all are going in two different directions.
And I've seen this happen. I know I'm going to stick on this one a little bit longer because I've seen this play out in people that I know, like where the wife goes to one church, the husband goes to another church, and they have they both are Christian, they're both born again, but their doctrines are different in how they believe and how they act. So while it was okay in the beginning because she wanted this man and she had this dream and whatever, and really in the back of her mind, she thought that she could convert this man over to her way, and it didn't happen. Now they're still married, but she's not as happy in her relationship as she wants to be. I know this for a fact because we talked about it, so I'm not just, assuming that. But she's had some battles and issues with their relationship because of that difference right there. In the beginning, when they was dating and stuff, it didn't matter because it's just good enough for her. It was good enough for him to just be a Christian.
Yeah.
She wasn't going to marry a non-Christian, but they didn't have the same belief system.
Yeah.
And now it had affected her marriage in a way that she didn't see coming. So those things really do matter. Don't settle just because, well, I could do worse. And a lot of times people have that mentality where I could do worse. Not realizing that worse happens. Over time, things corrode over time. And you would say, man, I wish I had just made another choice.
Yeah, exactly. So belief system is highly important. And it kind of leads into the second one, which is, what is your vision? Okay. It's very important to find out what the vision is of the person that you're tying yourself to, because y'all supposed to be sharing the same vision. And if you have two competing visions, like, okay, I met someone, they're great, and their dream is to have a family of 4 and move to be a missionary in Africa. Great. Is that your vision though?
Yeah.
Well, we could talk about it, put it all. No. Is that your vision? What's your vision? And here's even a bigger one than that I see be problematic. Do you even have a vision?
That's true.
Do they even have an idea of what they want to do in life? Or do they just go to work, come home, and plan to do that, rinse, repeat 50 years and die? Is that what you want? Now, y'all both got that same vision, then y'all might do okay together. But you got to find out, where are they going? Because y'all about to tie ourselves together, become equally yoked, and go that same direction together. And if someone is got higher aspirations than the other, the person with the low aspirations is probably going to drag the other person down.
Yeah.
It happens.
And unfortunately, we have to mention that a lot of time people lie.
True.
To get what they want.
Yeah.
And they will make a person believe that, oh, I am ambitious and I have goals and da. See, we talked about this in other sessions. Don't marry potential. Like, we hear this all the time. Well, he has great potential. She has great potential. Well, is there any evidence of this potential working in their lives?
Yeah.
Now, we're not talking about, they may not have it all right now, but are they working in the vein that they say that they see themselves working in? Are they moving towards that? Can you see that actively developing in their lives?
Do you even see some consistency in
Exactly.
their performance to show that, okay, yeah, they're getting there. They're aiming for something, and it's not just a dream, okay? Yeah. You marry someone who's got a great dream. We can all have great dreams to do amazing things. But what are you doing today that's actually going to direct you there? And yes, you can marry someone who can support you or that you can motivate to help get there. But you don't want to tie yourself to someone who your support and motivation is required for them to have any movement.
Yeah.
You want to see them be self-motivated. One thing that attracted me to Cacie was she was a businesswoman, but she was self-motivated and she was doing things. And what attracted me was her momentum and her motivation and her movement. If she was a woman who had a lot of ideas, but just sat around doing nothing, just scrolled social media all day and had no aspirations, that would have attracted me. That would have turned me off and I wouldn't have been interested. But she was someone in action doing something that had nothing to do with me before she met me. If I wasn't part of her life, she didn't need me to pursue what it was that she was pursuing. So that ambition that she had, because I'm a highly ambitious person, attracted me. And then the vision that she had matched with where God was taking me. So I knew that if I attached myself to her and revealed my vision to her, and if she chose to follow the vision that God set out for me, then we are going to accomplish something and bring something to life. Because I want to say specifically for the man, part of your requirement as a husband to a wife is you're required to help nurture her, all of her potential out of her, and bring her to the fruition of what God directed her to do. And God will minister to you how to direct her there. So yes, you should have a vision, man, but there should be, it's almost bad to say room in your vision, but an integral aspect of that vision has to be her role in it and her coming to full fruition. Okay. But at the same time, man, you don't want a woman who's just got no motivation, no desire, no interest in anything. It's just kind of, use the term like airheaded in a sense, and just kind of floating with the wind, because that'll just frustrate you. Yeah. And woman, don't hire yourself to a man the same way, because that's definitely going to frustrate you.
And for us, our core belief system or what we both brought to the table was our desire for ministry. Yep. We knew that we are outreach type people. We wanted to help people in ministry. We didn't know exactly what that was going to look like between the both of us at the time in the beginning, but we knew we wanted to do that. Yeah. We're both very creative people, and we're designers in a way, like production, things like that. So that really brought us together. We shared that common interest, and we both were very active in developing those things. So it really made a difference in what we're doing right now, actually. Because honestly, we would not be doing Jalen and Cacie this effectively if we both didn't share that same passion. Yeah. And it's not that we're not very different. We are very different from each other. And we have different skill set, and we have different ways of looking at things. But we still had that very core same drive to do the work of the gospel. And we take the talents and gifts that God has put in us, and that's what he uses to put it out there.
Yeah. So vision is very important. So third one is, let's talk about family. Yeah. Okay. Talk about the families that you came from. Talk about your childhood. Talk about the family that's in your life now. And why should you talk about this? It's not because a person is their family, but it is because you people are a product of the family life that they lived. And so that's something we talked about a lot. And it's also a good gateway to kind of talk about your expectations too in a relationship and in a potential marriage. Because a lot of times we look to try to replicate, we either try to replicate what we saw our parents do if we liked our parents, or we try to do the exact opposite and rebel against what we saw if we didn't like our parents and what they did or didn't do. And so it's
both those behaviors can have a very massive effect on your marriage. Yeah,
because what you're going to end up doing is replicating what you saw. And so it's very important to talk about family life and what did you like, what you didn't like, what was your relationship like with your siblings. It can give you an insight into what your family life could look like and what your kids could be like. And
your relationship between your parents. Yeah. You know, because that's so important. Yeah. And not just how good or bad the relationship was with your parents, but how did that skew your view about a man, a husband, or a wife, a woman? Like, how did that shape and mold your thoughts about that? Because it really makes a difference on how you're going to treat your spouse if you think a woman should be subjugated, you know, or she's your help, and you know, you're the man, you're the boss, and she's the slave. You know, I'm using really hard terms, but depending on your upbringing and how women were presented to you growing up, it's going to determine how you handle your wife and the respect you have or the lack thereof of your wife, and vice versa. You know, if you grew up in a home where the woman was very dominant and the men were didn't have a voice or whatever, you're going to probably be a very bossy, dominating woman, and, you know, that's not going to work for that man. Yeah. So, you know, you really need to talk about those things so that you can get a gauge and a feel like, maybe not, you know. It's very important. Fortunately for us, you know, we knew each other's families pretty well. Yeah. I saw how you respected your mother, so I didn't have a fear that you would disrespect me as a woman, but there were still some things that we had to talk about.
expectations that we had
expectations
based
that
on
we
what we
had.
saw,
Yeah.
and or fears based on what you saw that
Yeah.
you didn't want to replicate.
Yeah.
And that's a good point to talk about that too, because sometimes you'll wonder why this person behaves a certain way, and it's because they're running away from something they fear that they saw in their home life.
Yeah.
Some people had very abusive home lives and
Yeah.
things like that, And how deep you get, depending on how early you are in this relationship you're starting, it may differ depending on how deep some traumas or some secrets go. But at the end of the day, if this is going to be something serious you're pursuing, you're going to have to cross that bridge at some point,
Yeah.
and not live trying to hide these things and say, well, let me just spring this on you after we're married. Or I'm just never going to tell you.
And that's why,
it's going to
again,
impact
it's
you.
important to have counseling too.
Yep.
Because someone will be able to engage those questions that
Yep.
you may not know to ask or are afraid to ask.
Exactly. So it's really good to talk about family life and where you came from, which goes into then talking about kids. And this talk covers a whole gamut of things, but principally, do you want children? How many children do you want? How far apart do you want to have them? How quickly you want to have them after being married? These are all little nuances that you're probably going to differ on at least one of those things.
Yeah.
It's important to settle those things early, because if someone makes it very clear, I just don't want kids, I don't think I'd be a great parent, I'm not interested in it, don't go in assuming I'm gonna be able to change your mind. What if you can't?
No.
What if you don't?
May not.
That's gonna be problematic. So it's real good to pump the brakes and say, you know what, this is a hard stop for me. This is a hard pass. I am really interested in children. If you're not, this isn't gonna work. And just be upfront and honest about that. And don't be dishonest about what you really want and how you feel just because you're trying to save this potential relationship because you think they're a great person.
Again, don't settle. Don't
Yeah.
settle. Don't settle. Don't
Yeah.
settle. Like, this is, look, I'm a 90s kid, yo. So there was a particular album that I wanted. And I went to this, and this is back when you had to go to the music store or the bookstore and get your music. So I wanted this particular album, and they only had it in cassette. They didn't have any more CDs, and I wanted the CD. But all they had was cassette. And the lady was like, well, if you wait a couple of weeks, we'll have a new shipment of CDs in, and you can get the CD. But I was so anxious for this album. I just had to have it. So I said, no, I'm going to get this cassette. Knowing goodness well, I didn't want a cassette, okay? Because y'all already know. You got to fast forward, rewind.
I apologize for anyone watching Generation Z who does
If
not
y'all
know
know
what a cassette is.
Okay, Google it, okay? But it just didn't give me the same experience as having the CD. I couldn't jump to the next song. I had to rewind and fast forward. There were some songs that I really
like
loved.
having Spotify Premium or not having Spotify Premium. That's the best example we can give you if you don't know what a cassette is.
But what I'm saying is, though, I didn't have the experience that I really wanted. Even though I had the album, it was the same songs. But it wasn't giving me the experience that I knew I could have if I had the CD, because I was too impatient to wait, thinking that, I don't know, if I'll miss out on something if I just didn't get it right now. So that was my immaturity. And the thing about it, I spent the same amount of money on that cassette of this CD. Anyway, the point is, don't settle thinking that you're going to miss out on something if you don't get it right now. And it doesn't say that particular person may not be the one for you. They may take a little more time to develop and grow, or whatever the case may be. Or you may need a little more time to talk and have counsel and guidance on that particular topic. But don't settle when you know in your heart, I want children. I would love to have this amount of children. And I need to have children.
Let me say this.
Or I don't want children.
Let me say this. The key to that is A, trusting God, and B, realizing that the worst case scenario isn't being unmarried. Worst case scenario is being unhappily married.
Yes, for
and
sure.
It's like, well, isn't there also a movement of like not having such high stipulations when choosing a man or a woman and having this impossible list? Yes, but notice these questions aren't superficial things. It's not about height or skin color or appearance or things like that. These are about core beliefs and values that these are the things that lead to people having irreconcilable differences in divorce. You can avoid these things if you don't compromise on these issues. And it's like, well, isn't compromise okay? Yeah, compromise is something you'll have to do once you're married. But before you're married, you don't got to do nothing you don't want to do because you're single. You're unmarried. And if that's a hard rule for you, it's okay to have the hard rule. Like, one thing that I have noticed, and there's a kind of a sub movement in our culture now where you're almost trying to break down people's standards because your standards are too high. And there's some of that, but sometimes it's okay to stick to the pillars of what's important to you.
Yeah.
Because if you're dishonest and say, okay, well, it's not important and I'm just going to make a compromise here and then you end up unhappy, then that's dishonest because it's not a true compromise. So, look, the two of y'all get together, y'all start talking about children. Maybe you want two, they want three. Okay, that's not a huge enough difference that y'all could probably continue forward, and work that over
Because
time.
I think we originally had a number of children, and then we came to a middle ground to
Yeah.
how many children that we wanted. Because I was like, whoa.
Yeah. So yeah, and so that's fine. But if you got somebody that says, "Well, I want 10 children," and you're just working up the courage to have one, oh, well, hold on, And there's other considerations too. If you were dealing with some kind of issue that would possibly make it where you wouldn't be able to have children, or depending on what your age is, and maybe this is a second, third marriage, or they have already got kids. There's so many other considerations, but still talk about them because you never know. And you don't want to just be diametrically opposed. You may have slight differences that y'all can work out, but diametrically opposed to each other and just hoping that it'll work out in the future, you don't want to do that to yourself. That's just a headache waiting to happen. Which leads us to our final question, which is, what about vices?
Yeah.
What things are you struggling with and they struggling with that you need to be honest about? You're tying your life to this person potentially.
And what is a vice? A vice is something that is either an addiction and something that
a struggle
that controls that person's life.
Yeah, it's something in your life that you want gone, but it's not gone yet.
Yeah,
I'll put it like that because sometimes we won't admit we got a problem with something like that. But if it's something that you want gone and it's not gone yet, it could be financial struggles that you have. It could be sexual struggles that you have. It could be like substances. It could be anger. It could be any number of things. It could be weight and eating. But if you got something that you haven't won the battle with yet, you got to reveal that to them, because what is right now, and it's important to ask these things because you're talking to someone. And again, it's not, oh, you're a bad person if you struggle with that. It's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about understanding that their struggle, when y'all get married, it's about to become your burden.
Yeah.
Okay? Their vice will become your burden that you'll have to lift with them together. And you've got to know whether or not you're willing to take that leap. And it's okay to say, I don't think I can handle that.
Yeah.
It's okay to say that,
It really
That may
is.
hurt the person's feelings, but you got to be honest. Don't fake it and say, oh, it's okay, and it's not okay. If that freaks you out and it just blows your mind and you can't handle it, or maybe you need some time to process it and you'll come around. That's cool. But you've got to give the other person an opportunity with your stuff too. So if I kind of got this food addiction, I've been done crash diets, I've done different things, and I've just never been able to work it out. Be honest about that. Talk about it, okay? If you got a problem with money, like, hey, I got a whole bunch of debt that you don't know about. I'm going to just be honest with you. And I'm just not good with money. Talk about it, okay? Got addiction to pornography. Talk about it, okay? You got some stuff in your past. Some of it is stuff that's like, it's not even necessarily your issue, but maybe you got a drug addicted family member that pops up in your life every 5 years or so. You may want to tell them about that so they'll just pop on your doorstep one day like, whoa, who is this? Oh, this is my long lost cousin I never told you about. Well, I would have loved to have known that before they showed up on my doorstep. You know what I'm saying? So there's certain things that's kind of sometimes family issues that, hey, it's one thing you may need to know because it could affect us later. It's not my fault, but it could affect us later. Or you've got previous children, or a bad breakup from an overpossessive ex or something, or you were abused in a past relationship, and it's something that's maybe public record, and they may want to know this or need to know this just for safety reasons.
Don't keep things that could come up later, and don't think to yourself, well, it was so far in the past that it could never come back and haunt me. Trust me, something about being married, the dead stuff rise up, like it just comes back to life. So don't do that, because you don't want to go years down the road and all of a sudden, bam, I've seen it happen.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen, and it's not a good thing. It's not pretty.
And you may say, well, I'm just not ready. I've got some issues that I'm just not ready to. I haven't talked to anybody about it. And it's like abuse stuff and traumas and child stuff. And I can't talk about it. Well, if you're about to make a decision as serious as getting into a relationship and possibly marriage, that may be a sign to you that it's time to get your stuff in order.
Yeah.
You got to get your mental and spiritual house in order. Okay, maybe you need to go talk to somebody first. You need to go get some help even before you share it with this person. But if you're about to commit your life to somebody, it's only fair. You have to be fair to this person. And if you know, hey, I'm kind of a mess and I've got things I haven't even started to work out yet, then that may be a sign, look, it's time for me to start working this stuff out. you know, and you may need to take a step back and take care of that first. Okay. Now, we're not trying to scare anybody away from relationships or say you got to do a whole laundry list of improvement before you're allowed to start talking to somebody. But we're saying you need to be honest. You need to ask these questions. You need to be real. Okay. Because otherwise, like you said, it just drags itself up. You could be trying to take it to your grave, a secret of your own, and it'll find a way to creep out.
It will find
and
a way.
it'll blow up a good relationship. You don't want to do that. So be honest, be straightforward, ask these questions, and find out the truth before you get yourself too invested. And I know we're saying this, it's going to fall on deaf ears to some extent for some people because, again, once those eyes meet and the first love thing starts going, it's super hard to turn it off.
It really is. And I mean, and with that comes along this fear of if I reveal everything about me, they're not going to want to be with me and things like that. And, you know, I will acknowledge that's a legitimate, you know, concern. You know, you may have a really ugly past and you just don't want nobody knowing about that. But again, when we are here talking about these things, we are going to assume, but that's not, that you are approaching this from a spiritual, godly perspective point of view. So if you know you got a past and you're interested in someone, I would suggest going to your spiritual leader, go to your pastor, a spiritual counselor, a Christian counselor is what I really want to say, a Christian counselor. And if you're comfortable, reveal these things and ask them, well, how do I approach this topic in this relationship? How do I reveal this to this particular person? The thing about relationships is that a lot of people dive in head first and they go all in so quickly that it's hard to have these conversations and kind of back out a little bit if they need to and give themselves space and room to figure out if this is the person I want to be with, because you committed so much of yourself to each other. That's why we're not, you shouldn't sleep together. You shouldn't have no sex before marriage. Like, that will protect your mind, protect your soul and your body.
Your objectivity.
But your objectivity is so much better when you're not sexually involved.
It's inexistent once you're sexually involved.
Yeah, like all your emotions and everything's everywhere. Because, like you said, once you lock eyes and you're just into this person, it's kind of hard. Your mind goes foggy.
But you made a very good point about talking spiritual leadership because depending on what it is that secret you may have, you also don't want to just vomit it out on like the first date. You know, because if you're still figuring out whether it's the person, you don't want a laundry list like, I've told 10 people my deepest secrets, and then it turned out, no, I didn't really want to marry them, you know. So you want to know that, hey, this is going somewhere. This is actually becoming serious, and have someone who can guide you through, okay, this is how we get into this. And maybe within the context of a premarital counsel situation, these things can come out. So granted, depending on what's going on, these are kind of like broad questions, but there may be some things when you get to the vice side at least, where it's like, okay, this doesn't come up day one. This may come up a little bit further down the road when we know, okay, this is serious, we're going somewhere, and I can trust you with this information. So we wanted to make that little clarification there on that last one. But yeah, no, I think this is pretty fun. I think we covered some good topics here. So again, leave them in the comments. What are some good questions you could think to add to this list? Because this isn't an exhaustive list.
It's not.
There's a billion things you can ask.